we are doing The Second Coming by William Butler Yeats, and our learning targets, I will utilize my prior knowledge of reader response theory to generate meaning of The Second Coming by William Butler Yeats. And by the end of class, I will be able to write a reflection about how The Second Coming by Yeats influenced/relates to a piece of pop culture today. So we'll probably make it at least through the reader response theory, and just as a general reminder of what reader response theory is, here's some textbook, definitions here, but it's your own response. It's the idea that you are what make meaning out of the text. So your personal connections, your text-to-text connections, even your text-to-pop culture connections, whatever connections you are making or meaning you are making out of the text is what gives the text meaning. So that's a lot of information. But right now, what I want you guys to do is you should have The Second Coming in front of you. What I want you to do is read through it and annotate it and pick out some of those connections that you would personally make with it and try to figure out what it is that Yeats is trying to tell us through this poem. I'll give you a few minutes to do that, and you should also have a sheet. If there's any words you're not familiar with, I gave you a sheet with some definitions there. That should help you.
How do you know what reader response is?
We're teaching it to our sophomores.
Oh.
Yeah, so they're already used to that. That's what they're learning. It's this would be probably like the 5th time we'd be doing something like that.
Okay, that's quite the teacher.
Yeah,
she knows a lot.
He's awesome.
Okay.
He printed out something. He's like, this is what we're learning. This is how I believe. It's all student voice. And
I like him.
yeah, he's amazing.
I love reader response theory.
Me too.
So egalitarian.
Maybe write a little note in the margin over there about that connection you're making, even if it's just a one-word answer. But remember to keep annotating as you go through. And if there is a word you don't know, try looking on that sheet. It might have a definition there. Finished and we're still waiting on some others, you can kind of jot down some notes of things you might want to say. Remember, reader response theory is all about your opinion. So the meaning you make out of the text might be different than the meaning I make out of the text. And it could be personal connections, what causes the difference, or prior knowledge.
And I have 5 minutes.
A few more seconds. All right. Now I have some questions that I want us to just talk about. So what images come to mind as you read the poem? Do anyone have any images that came to mind? Colleen?
I saw in the first stanza kind of like the end of the world.
Yeah.
And then in the second stanza, he writes somewhere in the sands of the desert where he sees his
awesome. Did anyone else have any other images they saw?
When it talks in the second stanza, a shape of lion body and the head of a man in the desert, it reminded me of like the Sphinx.
Okay.
I didn't know if that was exactly what it was.
Yeah, definitely.
I was wondering what that creature was actually called too, because I know it has a name, but I can't think of it.
No, you don't. Anyone else?
I thought it was from Revelation.
Okay. Yeah. What's our next question? Oh, what does this poem remind you of? Started us right in on that.
Well, in the second stanza too, he says that 20 centuries of stony sleep, and 20 centuries is 2,000 years, right? 20 times 2,000.
Yeah.
And which is, right about the time when Christ died. So it kind of reminded me of that, and it's called the second coming, and in the Christian faith, the second coming hasn't happened yet, but it's going to, and so it's kind of like Revelation, like what Lexi said. It's
Yes.
a prophecy of
Yeah, and it also mentions people in that.
Yeah.
So you're making kind of those personal connections. Great. Anyone else have anything to add to that?
I saw some connections at the end of the first stanza about kind of just a havoc-filled world. Like I didn't
Mhm.
necessarily make the same biblical connections, but I just saw like craziness, and I kind of thought about like the idea of world upside down that I know from Lear, and like that whole like the world is turning backwards. So like the best type of conviction, while the worst are full of passion and intensity, like isn't it supposed to be the other way around? And at the very end, I saw kind of like to be born in Bethlehem, like a new beginning happening. So kind of a correcting of the world upside down, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, these are all great personal connections, right? There's no right answer. I'm not going to come to you and say, yeah, that's right, or this is what he meant. Because in reader response, we're generating our own meaning based on our own personal connections. I do have what do you think he was trying to tell his readers. Have any of you read Yeats before? Not in a while? Yeah. This would maybe require some background context question, but it's definitely something to explore if you wanted to go the route of reading into who Yeats was and kind of his own beliefs and maybe what would have fueled this sort of poem to be written. Ooh, have you read anything like this before, or have you seen anything like this before? Some of you mentioned Revelation, the Bible. I mean, is it similar, or what's it all about?
I guess something that I pulled out is that second coming is capitalized. That's really minimal, but for some reason I'm seeing that this is like a really important thing. So I really latched on to like, I suppose it being, something noteworthy for capitalization.
One thing I want to point out is, I know that the title of that book, Things Fall Apart, gets it from this, and that's definitely a book that really expresses the missionary takeover of Africa and how that all transpired. So you get the second coming of Christ, but then I forget what the author is of Things Fall Apart, but he picks up Things Fall Apart for a book that's very.
Would you be surprised to hear that he picked that title because he is a man who just loves Yeats, and it turns out that he didn't know what the poem meant until after he finished and he actually read through the poem and was like, oh, awesome. It was kind of like accidental art that fit really well, right? And then we've been talking about the personal connections. So, how much time do we have left?
About half a minute.
Okay. So one thing that I wanted to draw out, and this would maybe be a little more for my, actual 10th grade students, but I felt this was super post-apocalyptic, right?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so that was something I drew, and I also had some of my own personal connections to it, but this came to mind. I mean, I haven't seen World War Z. How many of you have seen that movie? Colleen? Zach, yeah, I haven't seen that one, but I know it's about, zombies and stuff and that whole apocalypse deal. I have seen I Am Legend. How many of you have seen that? Yeah.
Wow.
And same thing. So I definitely got this idea that there was kind of this apocalypse happening. Antia.
There's actually another book that draws its title from this poem.
Mm-hmm.
That's Joan Didion's Slouching Towards Bethlehem, which is a collection of essays based on like 1960s, 70s San Francisco. And she talks about how